Hello everyone, I hope you're well. I wanted to cover theme 2 of learning unit 2, which is on culture and identity. So in this recording we will learn how culture, or to what extent culture plays a role in identity construction. So I have been talking or engaging with a number of people, asking them what is culture, what do they see as culture, and also what culture do they practice. And a lot of people have realized that they have moved away from the culture that they were born into and forming their own culture, and also adopting more of a global culture. So that brings on yet another layer to this difficult concept, which is culture, because it is quite difficult to define, to give rather a single definition of culture. So what we have done, we have narrowed it down. This can be found on pages 71 to page 74 in your textbook. So when we define culture, we are looking at practices and rituals and foods and songs and language that are being practiced by a number of people. So the idea of culture is that it should be done by a group of people. So it has to form part of a collective that practices or have common goals, common values, common belief systems. That is the idea of culture, or rather the definition of culture. It's quite difficult to give a single definition of culture, because there are some people who adopted their religion as part of their culture. So which means the more and more we evolve as a people, is the more that this definition of culture will take new forms and new shapes as a result of having people adopting to newer ideas and newer concepts of culture. So the theoretical perspectives on culture, these are perspectives that are specific to the concept of culture, or rather the chapter on culture. And those are the conflict perspective, the structural functionalism, the symbolic interactionism, as well as the post-colonial perspective. So the symbolic perspective, or rather let me start with the structural functionalism, believes that because societies are made up of institutions, those institutions have to have common values and common belief systems that they can live by as a collective, for them to coexist. So culture brings about stability in society. And then we have the symbolic interactionism that looks at smaller groups of people and the way that we interact with one another. So we need a way that we interact with one another, either through our different languages, or either through our different materialistic objects, or so on. All of these things have to form part of a collective in which we can exist. And then when we have the conflict perspective believes that culture further promotes the inequalities in society because of the different cultures that exist in our society. So all of these different cultures gives an opportunity for people to discriminate against each other, and so on. So in that, with that said, it brings about more conflict in society. And when we are talking about the post-colonial perspective, this perspective believes that because we are, or rather let me say, those colonial or colonized societies or areas, because they were colonized, they went through a process of changing and evolving as a result of colonization. And now post-colonial, they realize that they do not have a single culture that they are looking or focusing on, because there are different people with different backgrounds and different cultures coming in, therefore forming a mixed culture. So post-colonial perspective just holds the idea that because of colonialism, as well as the different cultures being brought together, there isn't a single culture that is being practiced, but rather we are moving more towards a global culture than we are looking at ethnic cultures. And so this is the idea that we have in culture. So when we are looking at the elements of culture, the first one is that culture contains universal attributes that exist in all settings, and that culture can be material things and symbolic or non-material things. And culture is not static; it changes over time, and as we are evolving as well, that is the way in which culture continues to evolve as well. So when we are looking at a culture, there are groups as well as subgroups, and that's the first point that I made with cultural diversity and cultural identity. We have people who identify as a certain culture, but then they bring along their religion, which might bring about a clash between the two, because if your religion holds this belief and your culture holds a different belief, at some point there will be clashes in between. So we have different languages between people who have the same culture. We have different religions, and we have different norms and values as well. Some people will be seen as very cultural, and some people will be seen as more towards the global culture because of our identities and the things that we've been exposed to as well. So does culture form part of your identity, or is it a contributing factor to your identity? The answer is yes, definitely. Just depending on which culture you practice. Do you practice it more than you do practice the global culture, or would you say that you're more cultural than those around you? So that is the question that I am leaving you with. I hope you guys did understand this part of Learning Unit 2. Next time I will be discussing identity and race. That's it from me. Bye, guys.